Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. Welcome back to day 13 of Advent of Tess 2025. We are officially past the halfway point, and today I have a pattern that introduces two new twists, but has many fewer twists than yesterday's. So this will be a little bit of a break in terms of time, but you will be learning something new. So let's go ahead and dive in. First, we're back to starting with a hexagon in the middle, and this will be a closed hexagon, so the mountain folds are going to go out to the corners. It's right-handed, so the valley folds will be one space above those mountains. For me, doing a right-handed twist in the center is kind of a standard that I set for myself, because when I'm working on fancier grids, it's really important to know which way the center twist is twisting. Even though on standard grids, you could do everything the mirror image and still have it turn out fine. So I'm setting up this closed hexagon twist. I've got all 6 of my pleats. Notice that the center area is very 3D. And the outside is flat, and I'm letting my desk help me hold those pleats in place. So with that starting setup, I'll start moving the flat area closer to the center until I have 2 grid spacings of pleat sticking up into the air. From there, I'm going to bop the center of my hexagon. Just give it a little dimple. You can hear that little pop. And I'm going to grab on 3 sides and give it a sharp twist around. This is going to probably turn out a little bit crumpled, but then we go and smooth out a little bit, put those folds back on grid lines, and it turns into a nice, clean, closed hexagon twist. From there, I'm going to flip the paper over, and it doesn't matter how you flip because all 6 pleats are exactly the same. From there, I'm going to put closed triangle twists very densely in and around my hexagon. So notice this is a pleat that we're keeping folded. I have my valley fold on this flap and that valley fold is laying right along the folded mountain. My mountain fold is 1 space away, and I'm going to open this free pleat until I have 3 mountain folds meeting at that 1 point. And over here, my valley fold will be on the outside of these 2 grid spacings. So my valley's in here, and I can go ahead and press to squash. Then there's the matter of which way I work around. And for today's pattern, since we're going to be returning to twists on the opposite side, I'm going to choose to take those 2 overlapping pleats in my right hand, have them arranged horizontally out to the side, and lift the pleat that was underneath up to the top and work around in that direction, adding in the new triangle twist. They're going to all be the same distance away from the center. We're going to add that in so that our new valley fold is right on the folded edge of the pleat down below. And the new mountain fold is 1 space away. Then I'm keeping the pleat from my first triangle folded as I find my third direction of grid line, and that mountain is going to pass right under the corner of our previous triangle twist. And we'll need both the mountain going out to the edge, again, under the corner of that twist, with the pleat from the previous triangle still fully folded. We'll need both the mountain and the valley to get everything to lay flat around our new twist, and squash. And as always, if you need to see that one more time, that's why the video is recorded. In most of the video players out there, hitting space will pause the video, hitting the back arrow will take you back 5 seconds, and likewise forward arrow will take you forward 5 seconds. So you can have some quick controls. You don't have to reach all the way over to a mouse. Rotating around, we'll repeat. I have those 2 pleats stacked on top of each other in here. I'll lift the bottom one up to the top and put in my new triangle twist with the new valley right along this folded mountain. And I'm going to repeat this all the way around with a little bit of a variation for the final triangle. We'll also see a slight difference on the 5th triangle since there will be an extra overlap in the paper. So I'm lifting the covered pleat up, putting in my new pleat that covers the next pleat over, and finding the 3rd pleat of my new closed triangle twist. Notice when I'm finding that 3rd pleat, it can be convenient to fold through the previous triangle just to help that mountain fold get in place. And then when we put the valley further to the outside for that 3rd pleat, that triangle flattens out again. And we can press to squash. Rotating around, I'm going to lift the pleat that was underneath, set up the new covering pleat. Oh, and I stand corrected. There's no extra overlap yet. And put in the 3rd pleat to get our 5th triangle twist. And now for our final triangle twist of the 6 on this side, and actually final triangle twist in the pattern, I'm going to put in a compound wrap down below the new twist. So I've got the valley fold coming out from the center hexagon hole, just like it has been for all the rest of them. And it's going to make more sense once I lift that plate that was tucked under. And what I'm going to do is open up the bottom plate enough to emphasize the valley fold crossing. And when I do that, I also need to find my mountain fold 1 space away. And then that valley, so it zigs and zags in the compound wrap, and then it comes down parallel to this existing pleat. So the way I have it right now, I have all the folds for the compound wrap, but the compound wrap will not lay flat until I finish setting up my triangle twist. So that's the same 3rd pleat going right under the corner of the previous triangle that we've been doing since the 2nd triangle. And we can press from the top to squash the new triangle twist. So this time when I flip the paper over, I'm going to be careful to grab that compound wrap in my right hand. As I flip, I've still got that compound wrap in my right hand. And I'm being particular about finding that location because it's going to make things easier as I go around to start with the first pleat overlap clockwise from the compound wrap. Because as you can see here, I have 3 grid spacings of space here, 1 here, and 2 between parallel pleats in the rest of my paper. So I want to work where I have more space. And for this particular pattern, my new, so we're putting in a closed trapezoid twist. And if you want to practice this twist on its own, there is a video on my YouTube channel and also in the Advent of Tess Hub page for practicing each individual twist used in Advent of Tess. So that's what's going on. Closed trapezoid twist. We're going to have 3 single depth pleats and 1 double depth plate. We have 1, 2 single depth pleats. And when I say single depth and double depth, I'm referring to the number of grid spacings between mountain and valley folds in the same pleat. Up until this point, all of our pleats have been single depth. So my new valley fold for the 3rd single depth pleat is going to go up in this direction. And the mountain is going to be 1 grid spacing away. I have another mountain here. They're meeting at a point, and that is the same point that my 3rd mountain fold is also coming to. So when it's folded, we see this mountain and our new mountain just going to lay up here, coming to a single point, and that 3rd mountain fold is also coming to the same point. Now we have this pleat that's continuing out to the edge. So notice in my overlap, I opened the pleat from the top triangle. I also need to open the pleat from the bottom triangle. And my final mountain fold for this twist is going to come out of the same point. It's going to be the same exact grid line as the mountain on the middle of my 3 single depth pleats. What's different about this mountain fold is that the valley is going to be 2 spaces away. So we have the mountain, and then we have 2 spaces to get to the valley. The valley is going to come and do something that we haven't seen before. It's going to take this pleat and bend it so that the corners of the squashed area of the twist are actually, and we're going to press from the top to squash, the corners of the squashed area are not going to hit exactly where the valleys of one direction meet the mountains of the next. It's going to look like a rhombus twist with a little leg instead. From here, we've opened up the space around clockwise from this twist, and that is where we're going to work next. And one key feature to keep in mind is that we're going to have tube pleat spacing in this area. So my new valley is 1 space below the existing folded mountain, and my new mountain is 1 space below that. You'll notice these folds are heading towards an existing pleat, specifically the double depth pleat. And what we're going to do, so we could probably, we could get away with doing a pleat overlap, but that's going to be harder to open on the other side. And we still are going to have more twists on the other side, mixed up rhombus twists to be precise. So what we're going to do And we notice that this mountain fold and this valley fold have a 60-degree angle between them. That's the condition for a compound wrap. At least it is when it's a mountain and a valley coming together, because that means that we're going to resolve this with one twist instead of two. In patterns with all triangles, it would be resolved with two twists and we wouldn't have the compound wrap. But anyways, this valley is coming over and it's going to bounce when it hits that mountain fold. So what I did is I opened up the double depth pleat enough to poke down the grid line with the valley fold. That valley fold is bouncing down until it hits the valley down below. It just so happens that this takes 2 spaces instead of 1, and then it will bounce again, continue off as a 3-way intersection of valleys. Our mountain fold will likewise hit and bounce, and it's also going for 2 grid spacings before it encounters the bottom fold. We're going to have a mountain in between here, and we're going to have a valley out the far side. Likewise, this is a 3-way intersection of valleys in here. And if you want more information about this wrap, this advanced wrap, I do have a video all about advanced wraps and how to fold them, with all the different situations of how to get into them. And then, of course, we have our 3-way intersection of mountain folds, where this mountain is on the same grid line and continuing the mountain from the previous closed trapezoid twist. So that was a lot, and with that in place, this area is pretty 3D. Actually, this whole side of the paper is sticking straight up into the air if I force the rest to lay down flat. And I need to open up the pleat from the lower triangle and allow my 4th mountain fold to come into this twist. This is kind of a crow's foot situation where we have those 3 single depth pleats, and then the middle mountain fold becomes the mountain fold of the double depth pleat. The valley is on the right hand side in this orientation, and that valley is going to run through and pin this point down. We can get the rest of the paper folded and then press from the top to squash. And we're going to repeat this all the way around, continuing to work clockwise. So I rotate, I find my tube pleat spacing for my valley fold. I use that to set up my compound wrap. Notice that I'm adding a mountain fold 1 space away from my valley. And in this compound wrap, my zig before the zag is now 2 spaces instead of 1, because there's 2 spaces between the mountain fold and the valley down below. And that can fold all together. Then I'm opening these pleats from the triangle twists to get my double depth pleat, so the leg of the chicken foot, and making sure that my valley is 2 spaces away, which forces the twist to rotate into place, and we can press down flat. Rotating once more, I'm going to prep the pleat at tube pleat spacing. And we should see that this is exactly where the folds are going to end up after we do the compound wrap. Let's double check. Yes, indeed, that is the case. I didn't have to move the mountain and valley down here. The compound wrap is kind of just releasing layers instead of keeping them bound up in an overlap. And then I can pull things more open, find that middle of the 3 single depth pleats, that mountain fold. That mountain continues through on the same grid line, and the valley is 2 spaces to the right. Rotating again, I'll do exactly the same thing, finding the spacing for my tube pleat, setting up the compound wrap where my new pleat runs into the double depth pleat of the previous twist, and opening up my pleat overlap from the triangles to find my through line of the rhombus, so the middle of the 3 single depth pleats. Continue that mountain straight out through and put the valley 2 spaces away, making that little leg, and then press to squash. So that's 5 of our closed trapezoid twists. Our 6th one, we're going to start in exactly the same way. So I'll find that tube pleat spacing. And you'll notice that this time we're working on the compound wrap. We're not working on an overlap of triangle twists, pleats, and the mountain doesn't seem like it's going to the right spot. But we trust the process, we trust our spacing, and we can go ahead and set up that compound wrap with the 2 spaces between the zig and the zag. And then we'll come in here and open up. So we have a pleat overlap in here caused by our first triangle twist. We'll need to open that up and let the pleat from the first trapezoid continue out straight. Then we'll open up and pop up the indented point of the compound wrap, just like we've been doing to fold rhombus twists. And then we'll see that yes, this line is actually coming to the intersection of the other 2 mountain folds. And my new mountain fold here is already underneath this single depth pleat. So what I'm going to do is look in here. You can see the point where my mountain fold hits the valley of the single depth pleat, right in there. Then I'm going to allow that to be a 3-way intersection of valley folds. So putting in that valley I just drew, and then I need my valley 2 spaces away from my new mountain of the double depth pleat, and the valley of, so if this is the zig, then that is the zag of the compound wrap. and my mountain folds will follow 1 grid spacing away. And with that in place, I can go ahead and press to squash the closed trapezoid twist. So we're almost there, but we have one more set of 6 twists to fold. Flipping the paper back over, and I don't care how I flip because all of these are set up as compound wraps. I'm going to pick one to start with. And when I open this compound wrap, the important feature that I want to find is where the mountain and valley folds of the double depth pleat are. Because what I want to do is open the compound wrap so that I have a mountain fold coming out the other side that is running on the grid line halfway between the mountain and valley of the double depth pleat that was feeding in. This will be another double depth pleat, and the valley will be on the far side of this other mountain fold. But before we put in that valley, there is one additional feature, which is that the mountain of the single depth pleat that's coming in needs to be 3 spaces away. So we're shifting over until there's 1, 2, 3 spaces between these 2 mountain folds. And the valley, it will be on the outside for this single depth pleat. And with that in place, we can put in the valley for the double depth pleat. This is a mixed depth rhombus twist, specifically a friendly mixed depth rhombus twist. And when we press from the top to squash, you'll see that one of the corners is coming right up to that closed hole that we have from the closed trapezoid twists, which is also where 2 of the triangles are going. And the other corner will be on top of the edge of the paper. I should say those are the skinny corners. If you have those 2 in place, the fat corners must follow. And then rotating around in either direction, really, because these are not going to have interacting pleats after these rhombus twists are folded. And you could really just popcorn around anywhere, but I like going clockwise when I have the choice. I'm going to open up the compound wrap, find the mountain and the valley of the double depth pleat, and when I'm pulling from underneath to open the compound wrap, I'm putting in a new mountain fold on the grid line between the mountain and valley of the double depth pleat. Then I'm checking the mountain of the single depth pleat. My new single depth mountain needs to be 3 grid spaces away, and the valleys are on opposite sides of the twist. From there, I can put it back down on the table and make sure that my outgoing double depth mountain fold has a valley 2 grid spacings away. And from there, I can press from the top to squash the twist. Once again, if you want the full detailed description over again, you can go back and see that with the prior mixed depth rhombus twist. Rotating again, I'm going to make sure when I'm opening this that I'm holding the twist in place further in, and that when I'm popping these folds near the edge, I have fingers on either side of that edge to make sure it doesn't snag and tear. And so I'm finding the mountain of my outgoing double depth pleat exactly in between the mountain and valley of my incoming double depth pleat. The mountain of my outgoing single depth pleat will be 3 grid spaces from the mountain of the incoming single depth pleat, and their valleys will be on opposite sides of the twist. And then the valley of my double depth pleat that's going out to the edge can be put into place, and I can press from the top to squash. Continuing once again, I'm going to open the compound wrap, and one of the things to notice is that if I follow the same algorithm as the single depth compound wrap, I would be pulling this grid line that's the same line as the mountain of the double depth pleat, but I actually want the one space above that. And then I'm finding the mountain and valley for my outgoing single depth pleat before laying everything down flat with the valley for my outgoing double depth pleat. So when we're looking at this pattern in the context of an infinitely repeating pattern, these mixed depth rhombus twists are kind of the perfect place to say, okay, whatever happens on one side also happens on the other side. They have that twofold rotational symmetry, where if you see them on one side, they look exactly the same as they do on the other side. And if I flip that halfway around, both of those still look exactly the same. So let me finish getting those new folds into place. These last 2 rhombus twists, and then I'll show you what that infinite pattern looks like. Or rather, I won't show you the infinite pattern, but I'll show you one with another round of repeats of the center. And rotating again, there's nothing different about this 6th mixed depth rhombus twist because none of our pleats have interacted since we flipped the paper over. And we can press to squash. So there is our pattern for today. It's named Near Miss. And it has this nice floral arrangement on the front, and the back is pretty floral too. So here's what it looks like with more repeats, treating that rhombus twist as a position of twofold rotational symmetry. So you see the same things on opposite sides. And one of the reasons, I'm not convinced that it's precisely the reason why I named this near miss, because I don't think I knew about it until after it was named. But if you rotate your trapezoid twist so that the 3 single depth pleats are connecting slightly differently, because there's 2 different orientations that could be. The middle single depth pleat could either be the coming from the top triangle, which is what we did, or it could be coming from the bottom triangle of those 2 triangles in the pleat overlap. Well, in this version, if you fill in the rest with 3-fold mixed depth hexagon twists, you get a flagstone pattern where the entire back surface is covered in twists. Which, when I realized that, I had almost finalized the Advent of Tess ebook for this year, which you can find at gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, and origami-shop.com. I'd almost finalized the ebook, but this one squeaked in as a last-minute addition. And then that's not the only way that you can repeat this motif. You can also do some really wild things. This is a pattern named Slingshot. I actually folded the beginning of it in one of my live streams on my YouTube channel, Gathering Folds. What's weird about this one is it doesn't treat that rhombus as a position of symmetry. It puts in another of the same rhombus and treats that as the position of symmetry. So you see two of these rhombus twists around the one in the middle. This one was really challenging to fold, and it is also in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook. There's a lot more to say about these kinds of patterns. I already mentioned the advanced wraps video where you can study like all of the different wraps that we're going to be using in the next few days. There's also a whole bunch of other lessons that I've made on the topic of trapezoid twists and how to continue patterns that start with a hexagon, then triangle, then trapezoid twist. That was actually one of the topics in my Tessellation Academy membership this year. And yeah, you can find all the details about my courses at gatheringfolds.com. And there's really a ton of different patterns to explore with this kind of starting setup. So happy folding, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow.